Okay, so in today's video, we're going to take a very quick look at converting between decimals and percentages. So if we want to convert from a decimal to a percentage, all we need to do is take that value that we have for the decimal and we're simply going to multiply it by 100. So if to get from a decimal to a percentage, we have to multiply by 100, then to get from a percentage back to a decimal, all we have to do is the opposite. So from a percentage back to a decimal, we're simply going to divide by 100. And that's the simple rule that we're going to use today to solve these questions. So to begin with, we want to write 0.34 as a percentage. Well, if we look at our rule, to get from a decimal to a percentage, we simply have to multiply by 100. So now remembering our rules for multiplying by powers of 10, because we're multiplying by 100, we know that this number is going to get bigger. So we're going to be moving the digits to the left of the decimal place. So because it's 100, we have two zeros. We're going to move our digits in our number 2 places to the left. So if we push our digits to the left once, our decimal point would go between the 3 and the 4. And then we've got to move it once more, so our decimal point is now going to go here after the 4. So 0.34 multiplied by 100 is just 34. So that's our answer as a percentage. So 0.34 is equivalent to 34%. Okay, for this next question, we want to write 18% as a decimal. So we're starting with our 18. And because we're going from a percentage to a decimal, this time we're dividing by 100. So again, remembering our rules of dividing by powers of 10, because I'm dividing by 100, this 18 is actually going to get smaller. So I'm actually going to push the digits in this 18 to the right. So at the minute, our decimal point is technically here. We've got 18.0. So because I'm dividing by 100, I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. So my decimal point would move here once we move it once, and then here once we've moved it twice. So 18 divided by 100 would actually be 0.18. So 18% as a decimal is equivalent to 0.18. So using this method, we're now going to try a few more examples. So feel free to pause the video here and have a go at these, and we'll go through the solutions in just a few moments. So for this first question, we want to convert 0.73 into a percentage. Well, we know from our rule before, to get from a decimal to percentage, we have to multiply our decimal by 100. So because we're multiplying by 100, we know that this number on the left is going to get bigger. So we're moving the digits to the left. So because we have 100, we have 2 zeros. We know that we're going to move this number on the left 2 places to the left. So if I move the digits twice to the left, our decimal point would now be here, after the 3. So rewriting those digits, we technically have 73.0, but we can just leave that as 73. And that is now our answer as a percentage. So 0.73 as a percentage is 73%. Okay, for this next question, we want to convert 0.4 to a percentage. So again, because we're going from a decimal to a percentage, we're going to multiply by 100 again. And we know because the number is going to get bigger, we're going to move the digits 2 places to the left. So because I've only got 1 digit after my decimal place, which is the 4, I'm simply going to stick in a placeholder after, which would be a 0. This just makes it a little bit easier to track the movement of the digits. So we know we're moving the digits twice to the left. So the decimal point would then appear after this 0. So now that our decimal is after the 0, we'd have 40.0, which we can just simply leave as 40. So 0.4 as a percentage is just 40%. Okay, for this next question, we've got 0.03. Again, we're converting it from a decimal to a percentage, so we know we're going to be multiplying it by 100. So because we're multiplying by 100, we know this number is going to get bigger. That means we're going to move all the digits 2 places to the left. So our decimal would now appear here after the 3. So our new number would be 3.0, but we can just simply write that as 3, and then this is our percentage. So 0.03 as a percentage is just 3%. Okay, moving on, we now want to turn 55% into a decimal. So we're starting with our 55, and to get from a percentage to a decimal, following our rule that we learnt earlier, we know we have to divide by 100. So because we're dividing by 100, we know this number is going to get smaller, so we're going to be moving the digits 2 times to the right of the decimal point. So our decimal point is technically here, we'd have 55.0, so moving our digits twice to the right, our decimal point would now appear in front of this first 5. So we'd have 0.55, then all we need to do is put a placeholder in front of that decimal, so we'd have a 0. So 55% as a decimal would just be 0.55. Okay, for this next question, we want to convert 80% to a decimal. Well, again, we know going from a percentage to a decimal, we're going to divide by 100. So we know because we're dividing by 100, the number's going to get smaller, so we're moving the digits 2 places to the right of the decimal point. So our decimal point is technically here, 80.0. So when we move the digits twice to the right, our decimal point would now appear in front of this 8. So now we've got 0.80. So all I need is a placeholder in front of the decimal point and then 80, but we can just simplify that to 8. We don't need the 0 after it. So 80% as a decimal can be written as 0.8. Okay, and finally we want to convert 7.5% to a decimal. So again, from a percentage to a decimal, we know we need to divide by 100. So we know this number is going to get smaller, and because we're dividing by 100, that means we're moving the digits 2 times to the right. So we can see at the minute we only have one digit in front of the decimal point, which is our 7. So all I'm going to do is put a placeholder in front of that 7, so we would just have a 0 here. So dividing by 100, moving these digits twice to the right, our decimal point would now appear here, in front of this 0. So we have our decimal point, followed by 0.75. All I need now is a placeholder in front of that decimal, which would go here. So 7.5% converted to a decimal is just 0.075. So well done if you followed along with those questions. And that's it for this video. If you want to check out any other videos relevant to this one, then I've left some links to them down in the description, and I've also put a card in the top corner, so feel free to check them out. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please feel free to leave a like and consider subscribing. If there are any topics you'd like me to go through next, then please just let me know down in the comments, and I'll try to make some videos on those topics as soon as possible. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.